Hey guys, so here we go. First video in the series, and I've entitled this one Truth Under Attack. Got some notes here, so if you keep seeing me glance down, it's kind of made some notes so I can keep myself on track, hopefully not ramble too much, maybe make sure to hit all the points that I'm trying to hit. So the first thing I want to talk about is life in a postmodern culture. And so what does that mean? In a nutshell, postmodernism is kind of the name that, I don't know, people have given to the era that we live in. And before postmodernism, there was modernism, and you've got other eras going back, the classical era, the romantic era. And so it's just kind of a term that people have come up with. But in a nutshell, modernists, and that's what the culture was before the postmodern. But modernists tend to believe that if we can find the truth, then we can apply it to society and it will enable us to be free. And contrast that to postmodernists who believe that in order to be free, we need to be liberated from the concept of truth. So in other words, they're going to say that truth really doesn't exist. So how does this kind of play out in our lives daily? Well, in classrooms, like at school, and you're going to run into this, I guarantee it. Students are encouraged to construct their own knowledge instead of being taught facts from the teacher. So how do you feel about that? What does that make you think? And so the students are taught more to try to think about their own answers versus looking in a book and finding the answer. And so you'll see that in history. Instead of studying factual historical truths, we're encouraged to see history through the eyes of, like, say, minority groups. And so you've got gay and lesbian history, or you've got black history, or women's history. And we're taught that everyone's reality was different anyway, so we can't really know what happened. And if you look at, maybe look at the Twin Towers. So instead of studying facts and saying, okay, on September 11th, Muslim extremists hijacked airplanes and flew them into buildings, they're going to look and say, well, different people have different perspectives. And so for some, it looked like a terrorist attack because these people were flying, these radical Muslim terrorists were flying airplanes into our buildings and killing our people. But if you look at it through the perspective of the people who are involved in Islam, for them it was a day of victory because they believed that America is the great Satan. And so they were rejoicing on that day. And so if you look at it from their perspective, it was a great victory in their battle. Or if you look at it from, maybe somebody else's perspective, that the people who were actually there, and for them it was a great tragedy. And so we're looking at things not necessarily to find out the truth of the facts, but more to find out how did that make you feel, or what perspective did you see that through. And then of course religion. And this is the biggie. The new tolerance in religion means never questioning another's view. Hush. There are many equal pathways to God, and what's true for one person may not be true for another, but that's okay because everyone has their own truth. Barnabas. He has to bark during the video. The one exception is that any religion which claims to hold the truth, such as Christianity is an exclusive religion. It says it is the only way to God and all the other ways are wrong. People with these beliefs are seen as radical fundamentalists, and they must be stopped because their beliefs are intolerant. They believe that other people are wrong. And so even though postmodernism teaches that we should have this universal acceptance for everyone's beliefs because everyone's beliefs are true to them, they make an exception towards those who don't agree with them. So in fact, they're actually just as intolerant as those that they accuse of being intolerant. And so everybody has their beliefs. And just because you're postmodernism and you say, oh, I believe that that all pathways lead to God, that's a truth statement. And you're saying that it is true that all pathways lead to God. Just the same as I'm saying, it is true that Jesus is the only pathway to God. And so we're both making a truth claim, even though they make it look more like, oh, we're so tolerant and we're so inclusive. They're really not. Because if you don't agree with them, then they don't tolerate your views. And in fact, they're just as intolerant as what they accuse Christians of being. So, is truth for real? And if so, is there a big picture to see how all the pieces fit? Think about a puzzle, okay? A box top. Is there a box top? You need that picture on top of the puzzle in order to put the puzzle together. So you can kind of see the big picture, and then the little pieces start to make more sense. Well, is there a box top to life? And so, despite all the denials that you'll hear coming out of the public universities or the media or elsewhere, I think that it is very possible to see how all the diverse pieces of life fit together. There is a box top. So the question is, who has this box top? Where is it? Does anyone have it? The many pieces of life just don't make sense without it. And all the world religions, each of them claims to have the answer or the box top. But are they correct? So let's look at the pieces. What are the main pieces that we're trying to fit together here? What are we trying to do? 5 most consequential questions. Number 1, origin. Where did we come from? Number 2, identity. Who are we? Number 3, meaning. Why are we here? Number 4, morality. How should we live? And the last one is our destiny. Where are we going? So these are the pieces that everybody is trying to fit together. And what is that box top? The answers depend on God. If He exists, then there's meaning and purpose to your life. If there's meaning, then there is a real right and wrong to the way that you live it. And the choices you make have eternal consequences. But if there's no God, then you just cease to exist at death. And your life meant nothing, since there was no purpose to life anyways. And in fact, you're just going to, it doesn't matter how you believe, because your destiny, in the end, really is just dust, right? Dirt. So most Americans hold to a view, something like what I call the elephant view, and this is very postmodern, okay? 6 blind people touch an elephant, and they all reach a different conclusion about what they touched. The first blind man touches the tusk, and he says, ah, this is a spear. The next blind man touches the trunk, and he says, ha, I have a snake in my hand. The next one touches the leg, and he says, ah, this is a tree, clearly. The next one touches the tail, and he says, oh, I've got a rope. The next one touches the ear and says, ah, a big fan. And the last one touches the elephant's side, and he says, ah, this is a wall. So the blind men kind of represent the world religions because they each come to a different conclusion about what they're sensing. Like each blind man, we're told that no one religion has the truth. No one religion has the complete box top. Religions are simply different paths up the same mountain, and this greatly appeals to the broadly tolerant American mind. In America, truth in religion is considered an oxymoron. There's no truth in religion, we're told. It's all a matter of taste or opinion. You like chocolate, I like vanilla. You like Christianity, I like Islam. If Buddhism works for you, then that's true for you. Besides, you shouldn't judge me for my beliefs. And that's how most Americans think. Other people will say, no, it's pointless to try and discover any truth about religion. They would claim that only science yields truth. After all, evolution disproved the existence of God, right? Truth doesn't exist in the realm of faith. There's no use trying to muster evidence or facts to support religion, because that would be like mustering facts to prove that chocolate tastes better than vanilla. You can't prove preferences. And so there's that viewpoint. And you'll hear that a lot, especially from the science department at your university or your physics teacher in high school. So where does it all leave us? Is the search for God in the box top just hopeless? Should we assume that there is no objective meaning to life and each invent our own subjective box top? Should we just be content to say, I don't know? I don't think so. I believe there is a real answer. And despite the powerful objections, I believe the answer is very reasonable. In fact, I think it's more reasonable to believe in God than not to. In other words, I think it actually takes less faith to believe in God than it takes to not believe in God. Did you get that? People who don't believe in God, they still have faith because they don't know for sure that God exists or doesn't. And so they're taking it on faith that God does not exist. And I think it takes more faith to say God does not exist than it takes to actually believe in God. So in the next section, we're going to look at the truth and is it knowable? Okay? This section was meant to point out the problem. The postmodern culture says truth is not knowable. Truth does not exist. Truth is something that's subjective. I have my truth. You have your truth. The next section, we're going to look at that. And we're going to determine, is the truth knowable? I think it is, and it's really exciting to see how you can prove it to any postmodernist who tries to say otherwise. So I'm looking forward to that, and this is the end of this video. So until then, ciao.